his panelists. Please welcome Brother Jim.
Well, this morning we're going to get right down to the business at hand, and that is the economics of transportation. So I have the pleasure of introducing the panel today. On my far right, your left, is Leslie Woods, the External Civil Rights Director for the Department of Transportation for the state of Missouri. And Ken Neal, next to him, Director of Office of Civil Rights, the MTA for the state of New York. And Matt Tucker, the agency director for the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation. And Ricky Smith, to his left, you all know Ricky, I guess I know him first from Maryland Aviation Administration. He's now the director of the Department of Port Control for the city of Cleveland. So without further ado, I'll introduce Ken Neal.
Good morning. Good morning. This is afternoon. I want to start by taking you way back to this. So if I could, learn about technology that prepare for the unexpected sometimes in our just
Ah, yes. Who can forget the 70s? The music, the fashion, the fads. The city in fiscal meltdown. It was a time when our hopes, our dreams, our city almost came to a grinding halt. Almost. After all, New York is a region where 14 million people always need to get somewhere. So the MTA got the funding to launch the largest rebuilding effort in U.S. public transportation history. Through successive 5-year capital plans and investment of more than $70 billion, the MTA has overseen a top-to-bottom overhaul of equipment, facilities, and infrastructure. What does it all mean for New Yorkers? It means nearly 4,000 new high-tech subway cars, the largest equipment purchase in mass transit history. It means new technologies to help customers get where they want to go. It means the nation's largest fleet of clean fuel buses. It means railroads with award-winning on-time performance. It means hundreds of miles of renewed track and over 200 renovated stations, including Grand Central Terminal, the crown jewel of New York. Comfortable? You bet. Safe? Absolutely. Graffiti? Gone forever. This is a new day, and we're turning the page to the next chapter in New York's transportation history, with subway service for the east side of Manhattan. Direct service from Long Island into Grand Central Terminal. Extension of the 7 line to the west side of Manhattan. Faster, easier connection of 9 lines in the lower Manhattan Financial District. And ultimately, a world-class, seamless regional transportation network. We're the MTA, and we're going your way. New York City Transit, Long Island Railroad, Long Island Bus, Metro North Railroad, bridges and tunnels, Capital Construction, and MTA Bus.
Well, as you can see, we have a little system up north. My job is to manage the affirmative action, equal employment opportunity program, the Title VI diversity management program for the MTA and its operating agencies. The last 4 years, we expended about $12 billion in third-party contracts. Over $1 billion went to certified disadvantaged minority businesses. It's a lot. There's a lot of things that we don't buy. There's a lot of things that we do buy. You take a look at the MTA in the service area, we move about 2.4 billion trips per year, passenger trips. We serve about 14.6 billion people. So when you look at the magnitude of our authority, there are a lot of headaches. We have a $10.8 billion operating budget, move 8.5 million people every day. One of the best kept secrets is going to lose a person every other day in our system. If you look at it statistically, it's almost negligible, but we do have traffic accidents. People commit suicide in our system, but when you move 8.5 million people a day, you only lose a half a person. I don't want to sound collateral damage. It's not a lot. 422 rail subway lines, 9,000 subway stations, rail cars and subway cars, 6,500 buses, 2,000 miles of track, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the most important thing is that we have 69,000 employees. And I'm proud to say 62% are people of color, over 45% African American, 17% are female. We have a $21.1 billion capital program for 2005, 2009. We're trying to work on our program for 2008, 2013, which is about $30 billion. And again, our goal is to award 17% of those monies to certified minority women-owned businesses. When we look at the economic impact of transportation in New York City, obviously without the MTA, there would be no New York City. I'm very proud of that. Our capital program is estimated to 2005-2009 program, estimated to create some over 300,000 jobs just in that 4 or 5 year period. $29.2 billion in economic sales and activities, another $1.1 billion in state and local personal income tax, and a whopping $11.8 billion in wages and salaries. It's a lot of money, but believe it or not, we are broke. Those who don't understand that, again, if you need 2.6 billion people a year, and we charge you $2 subway, that's about $5 billion. Our operating budget is $2.9. So we lose money every time we move a passenger. So one of the interesting things we're trying to do now in New York is you're aware that we're putting in a new subway line for the first time in 50 years. That's going to go from Harlem down to Lower Manhattan. We're bringing subway systems into rails from Long Island to Grand Central. So there's a lot of economic opportunities, a lot of opportunities for employment, a lot of contract opportunities. So one of the things I'm here to do is help promote those opportunities and make you understand that there are opportunities available for MBA, jobs, as well as contracts. Again, you need to understand how we circumvent the system, stay away from those who will hurt you. I did mention we have 62.2% minorities, so if you do the math, it's over 30% non-minority. I'm not saying all non-minorities against people of color, but if you're old enough and been around long enough, you know that some folks are not supportive of the program. And so my job is to help you navigate the system, get a better understanding of what we can do. I'm not certain about the protocol today, but I'm just going to go through a few things, so you bear with me, just give you a little understanding of some of the things we're doing in our capital program. I've met with several individuals here. This gentleman from Denver came out to see me. Kevin came out from Missouri. I was going to say Kansas City, but it's Missouri. the other side. And so one of the things I try to do is be a facilitator. So if you're out there and you want to come to visit New York, you need to knock on my door. Lafayette Turner came in from Plattsburgh, New York. The North Country, we call it, so far north. You see the Northern Lights. But again, New York is a big system, so you need to contact someone to help you navigate the system. Don't come in thinking just because you're certified, just because you have a PE, you're just going to step in and get some work. Just like any city, it's cliques. There's crimes to do business with certain DBEs. They lock certain other firms out, and you just need to know who's real and who's not real. There's time, there's money. When we take a look at our East Side Access, that's a $7.2 billion contract. Again, it's one of our pet projects. I joke a lot, some folks believe it's a way to keep non-minorities off the subway because they're going to go from Long Island, which is predominantly non-minority community, go right to the east side of Manhattan without getting on the subway. Some people still fearful of the subway. There's nothing wrong with our subway. There's something wrong with people who ride the subway. So, just want to make sure you were aware that we're in the safest systems in the country. And so that project is there. We have contract opportunities there. We're extending the number 7 line. Those who thought that New York had put in the bid for the 2012 Olympics, we're going to build a new stadium on the west side. Well, part of the problem of doing that, there was no subway line to service that. We're extending our 7 line to go over it. We're basically transforming Lower Manhattan, obviously after the tragedy of 9/11. We have a lot of construction ongoing there. And again, we have minority goals and subcontracting goals in all those projects. We're redoing our Fulton Transit Center, the South Ferry Terminal. These are what we call mega projects. It's not unusual, and I'll say this just so you get a sense of the magnitude of some of the challenges we have in New York. We awarded a contract for the number 7 line extension, and we had one bidder. And that contractor was a joint venture between Skanska, Chavon, and Shea, which is 3 of the largest contractors in the city of New York. And the contract was awarded for $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion. We had a 5% minority participation goal in that contract, but 50% of that contract is for the tunnel boring machine. So therefore, you're looking at $600 million of opportunities for construction. Then we found out there were no certified firms who were signatories to the sand hog treaty, who actually do the tunnel. So again, half of that's gone. So at the end of the day, we had an opportunity to award 5%, $1.2 billion to our community. They came out to less than 1%. So issues that we face in New York, obviously, is access to capital, financing, bonding, technical systems. We have to look at contract bundling. That's something I've got our executive director involved in. We have to debundle these contracts. If you award a $1.2 million contract, it's going to take 6 years to complete, and it falls behind schedule. Next thing you know, it's 10 years. Well, you can save money by putting it out in smaller packages. We need to look at that. We have very heavy capitalization requirements. I think there's always an issue regarding access to information, what I call the technology gap. One of the things I heard someone say to someone else is that if you want to keep information from a black person, put it in the book. And so we need to make sure that we close that gap, that we provide information to our community so they can act on it in a timely fashion. Certification is also an issue. We have folks who are certified in other states who have problems coming in now under the UCP to get certified. We need to take a look at that. One of the things I tell folks all the time, if you don't have a commitment from the senior manager, from the executive director, your program is not going to succeed. It's not going to succeed. We need to hold management accountable for inclusion of MBEs in their performance matrix. So again, they want a raise. Yeah, what's your diversity quotation? How did you do? Who did you hire? I think it's very important to have a meaningful outreach program, and we need to do more than just smile and grin. We need to make sure we provide real opportunities in real time and give people real information that they can use. And lastly, I just tell folks all the time, don't assume anything. Ask the question. If you don't know, ask. There's no bad question, there's no wrong answer. I tell folks, either you network or you get no work. If we don't work together, we are going to fail. Thank you for your time.
One of the things we're going to do today is we're going to try and hold the questions until the end so that we maximize the presentations of all the presenters today. I think you're going to find some very informative information that may answer some of your questions and may generate some additional questions. Lester Woods is next, and we hear from Matt Tucker and last will be Richard Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Jennifer. Welcome everybody to our presentation on today. Thank you for being here. Actually, Ken and Matthew and I had a chance to present this at the Rainbow Push Coalition in January in New York, and I think we got about a 3,000% increase of attendance here. So although we did an excellent job there, but we thank you all for being here. And the reason why I say that also from this perspective, because as I begin my presentation today, I want to say to COMTO and to those of you who are here today, I'm really excited about your interest in the economics of transportation, especially in the DOT or from the DOT perspective. My opportunity or my responsibility at the Missouri Department of Transportation is not directly in transit, okay? So I want to provide to you a few points of information that are non-transit related, that are opportunities for you in the Highway Transportation Department, okay? The Highway Transportation Department. And I'm excited about COMTO's mission in expanding that. I know Ricky is here today. He's going to talk to you about aviation perspective. But there's a lot of opportunities that are being unmet by minority and women-owned businesses in the highway transportation opportunities. And so let me just go down through a quick nutshell of what I offer and what my unit does for the Missouri Department of Transportation. And then hopefully you'll have some further questions from me at the end of the presentation today. Oh, first of all, I oversee the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program. Now, I know COMTO, I applaud our efforts in utilization of the terminology HUB, which is the historically underutilized business perspective. And I want to push that initiative to our federal partners, and hopefully we can get a name change from Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program to historically underutilized businesses. I think that would be an excellent opportunity for us to take to the United States Department of Transportation, because they're the ones that write the regulations. So maybe that's one of the first things that we should understand. When we talk about safety loop, we're talking about the United States Department of Transportation and Congress, who actually write the bill for what we do in reference to transit, aviation, and highways. And I oversee the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program for the state of Missouri Department of Transportation. Also, on-the-job training is another effort of workforce inclusion and diversity in contracting, because if we don't build up the capacity of individuals working in the workforce, how can we build up the capacity of people who own the businesses who can eventually do the work in business contracting? So we have an effort in workforce utilization and on-the-job training. Additionally, we oversee the contract compliance component. So there's no use in us setting higher goals and making big demands if we cannot hold our contractors accountable to complying to them. And so we have an effort in compliance. Not only that, but Title VI is a great effort of ours, which is inclusive of environmental justice and limited English proficiency. Another area that we oversee is ADA. Okay. In a quick nutshell, let me provide for you some of the best practices that Missouri DOT has utilized over the last couple of years. And hopefully, whatever state you're from, you can take some of these initiatives back and go and meet with your state highway transportation officials. Go and meet with the individuals. If you hear civil rights or external civil rights in your state DOTs, these are the individuals that deal with the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, the on-the-job training program, and the contract compliance program. So there's a terminology that is utilized statewide. It's a U.S. DOT perspective, and it comes from the Civil Rights Act of 1964, overseeing of Title VI. And so if you hear, or if you can meet and address some of these issues with your local state highway officials who work in the area of external civil rights, there's a difference between internal, because internal has to do with the department's internal workforce diversity, However, external has to do with our external contracting. So one of the things you want to do is encourage them. First of all, do they have a supportive services program? Because again, when I speak in the avenue of setting goals, there's no sense in setting higher goals if we're not meeting the current goals with sufficient minority and women-owned businesses. So the supportive services of those organizations are designed to help with technical assistance that will give our DBEs, like minority businesses, building capacity, helping with business plans, helping with finances, helping with bonding, and all of these other different types of initiatives to build capacity so that our companies can have a level playing field in coming into the business of highway construction. And highway construction is not specifically procurement. It's easier to get into some of the procurement areas, but when we talk about highway construction, write this down for your sake as some of the opportunities that we have. First of all, there's design and there's construction. In design, there's opportunities in construction management, construction inspection, overall consulting, various different legal consulting, and a variety of what we call professional services abilities, information, transportation tracking, all of these different types of design and professional services industry components. Now in construction, maybe you have not thought about some of these, but generally some of the biggest opportunities for DBEs have been in trucking. However, there are striping opportunities, paving opportunities, bridge painting opportunities, landscaping, electrical, street work, excavation, erosion control, materials testing, floor covering, signage, and a variety of other landscaping and those different types of things in construction. So when we look at these opportunities, we have opportunities both in design, we have opportunities both in construction. Now here's where I want to close out in my portion of this presentation and leave the room for questions at the end of Ricky's presentation and Matthew. The other initiative, if you have cousins, brothers, sisters, nephews, nieces, what have you, who desire opportunities in the construction field, every state DOT has the opportunity to utilize up to 0.5% of contracted dollars for workforce training and employment. Workforce training and employment. I am happy to say that I stand before you representing the Missouri Department of Transportation. My director will be here tonight and tomorrow for a presentation. Pete Ron, he's currently the president of AASHTO, which is the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials. We are one of the first state DOTs who have released some of these construction dollars that the prime contractors combat for, that the money is going on the highways. Missouri DOT said it's a brand new day. I applaud what Ken said, is that if you do not have representation and support from your upper management, these programs are very difficult to work. But our director given us the liberty to utilize 0.5% on two currently of our design build projects, which is over $500 million, which we got $2.5 million in the St. Louis area, $1.4 million in the Kansas City area, and the upcoming Mississippi River Bridge project is going to be in combination with the Illinois DOT to increase workforce diversity of between 20 and 30% in these areas, to encourage workforce participation of minorities and females on these projects, get them into the construction industry, and they have the opportunity to work for the unions and in business so that they can continue to be not only the future but the today of construction industry opportunities in highway transportation. So thank you for the opportunity to present to you today.
Good morning, I'm Matt Tucker. I'm Agency Director for the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation. I just want to see by a show of hands how many people actually are business owners. Thank you. How many folks are here representing transit systems? And how many folks are in here representing consulting firms? See, we have a diverse group. And I guess from my perspective, as I was sitting and listening to presentations, and I tell you, it's always difficult to follow Ken and Lester. Especially, Lester, I can tell he has some of that ministerial swing, the swagger, that I grew up with as a kid. Just in terms of my background, again, I'm Agency Director for Virginia, the Department of Rail and Public Transportation. I was appointed by the Governor of Virginia in 2006 in this position. I report directly to the Secretary of Transportation. My agency is responsible for statewide planning associated with rail
freight and passenger, public transportation, and transportation demand management. Prior to this position, I was the Chief Operating Officer for the Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority. Before that, I worked in the City of Phoenix. I was Deputy Public Transportation Director. And prior to that, I worked in Greater Richmond Transit Company in Richmond, Virginia as Assistant General Manager. In my current position, I really get to see from a very high level the relationship between economics and transportation. And it's something really profound for us to really start to sit and think about, you know, not in just the context of engineering or operations, because I think so much we think about transportation in the context of engineering and operations. But a part of my job is economic development. Now, I tell everybody politically, my first job is transportation, but within that framework is economic development. And you really have to consider the nature of how transportation projects really can affect your communities from an economic point of view. One of my projects is a project that's in a rural region in the state of Virginia, and it's the location of a rail intermodal facility, so essentially a transfer facility. We did an economic impact of locating that facility and found that that facility would generate almost 3,000 jobs. Now, for some communities, they would not know what an intermodal facility is, why they should fight to have for it in their community. But as a transportation professional, when you start taking a step back and look and say, well, there's a whole lot of communities would like to be able to add 3,000 jobs. You also think about a lot of the projects that we do, whether it's a highway project or a transit project, particularly on the transit side and the highway side. Highway side, look at the roads, where roads are put. From the transit side, look at where stations are. And one of the things I bet Lester can tell you is where you add a new road, and I bet Kenneth can tell you, where you add a new station, the economic value is enhanced. Okay? So it's really important for everyone to understand the nature of economics and transportation, not from the safety loop perspective, but in my wallet perspective.
That's right.
Within that framework, I think we really have to be able to think about, you know, fundamentally, how do we act, how do we perform, what do we do? And when I take a step back and look at what I do on a day-to-day basis, and when I interface with folks about the projects we do, I oftentimes go back and talk to firms, and a lot of times it's with SWAM firms in Virginia. We have small women and minorities goal-setting programs where the government has identified up to 40% is our goal. My agency, we're underachieving, but we're right around 37%. But we have a lot of room to grow to exceed that. What I always talk to folks about is when you think about any relationship, the first step to having a relationship is to know somebody. And I often tell people, it's good to know me, but I ain't really the guy to know. For so many firms, it's really knowing the clients that I do business with. The example I will tell people is I do a lot of business with the Class 1 railroads. In Virginia, that would be CSX Transportation and Norfolk Southern Transportation. Within the framework of my contracts, because what I'll talk about is what's my job and what's your job. My job is to make sure you know what's happening out there. My job is to make sure that you have a fair and level playing field in terms of contracts. Then I say, you have your job. Your job is to be qualified and ready. I'll tell you, very bottom line basis on the day-to-day life that I live, that results are what matter most. At the end of the day, I know the governor personally, we're good friends, but I never go to sleep at night thinking that if I fail on a number of projects, I'll still be around. I have to perform. And that's the same for our vendors. Marketing and communication. One of the things, again, as I was just touching upon, is the fact that I see with so many small women and minority vendors that they rely a lot on guys who are on these panels to get to know people. And again, we're good to go, good to know, but we're really not the guys to get to know. It's those companies that do the business. And I'll give a tangible example. With my public transit systems, we're probably the heaviest investor or funder for the public transit systems in the state of Virginia. We do tons of public-private partnerships with the railroads, some with the big Class 1 railroads, these are the guys that make the big dollars, and some with the Class 3 railroads, the guys who make smaller amounts of money. And as I came on board, I noticed that our SWAM achievement goal in 2006 was a whopping 2.76%. Did you get that? 2.76%. The year before last, we won the statewide SWAM goal achievement for our agency size because we exceeded the 40%. Right now, we're hovering right around the 35-37%. My job, again, was to make sure that we included provisions in our contracts that said we wanted SWAM goal achievement and that we were serious about it. But the big piece is when I go and talk to the folks who I do public-private partnerships, who I do grants with, and they will say, you know what, Matt, I really want to meet these goals that you've outlined in this contract, but I don't know anybody. I don't know any of the folks that can come in and really do the work that we need to get done. And I think that's a fair criticism that you as a vendor have to go out and develop those relationships. At the end of the day, people are most comfortable doing business with people who they know. And so I would say to you, one of the biggest things is to make sure you're able to let people know who the heck you are and that you have a history and a record of being able to produce results. Because again, if I know you, that's a good thing. I got to know you. But I also got to be able to say that I can trust you to do what you said you were going to do. Those are the two most important things that you can do at the end of the day to help us meet our goals in terms of underutilized business participation, and more importantly, to help your business grow and succeed and expand. Because at the end of the day, whether you're an owner or you're part of a consulting firm, you're responsible for producing a result. And it's never going to be easy, but you got to get to know people and you got to produce the results. I'll just close by saying that I think as we move into the future, I think a premium is going to be placed more so on partnerships and collaboration. And whether that partnership and collaboration occurs with bigger businesses and smaller businesses partnering up, sometimes again it's between local governments and state governments and the federal government, sometimes it's between neighbors collaborating. I think a key for all of us is going to be to focus on how we can collaborate better with our partners to leverage our resources and to produce those kind of outcomes that people will expect in the future. Thank you.
Coming up here to cut me off. Good morning. It's almost good afternoon, but good morning. I will try to be as brief but as informative as possible. 2 hours ago, I didn't know I was on this panel, so I'll do the best I can to keep this important. I'm Ricky Smith. I'm Director of the Department of Port Control, which for many of you doesn't mean anything. Just to give you some insight on that, the Department of Port Control for the City of Cleveland is responsible for managing both the Cleveland airport system and all its waterfront activities. And so the airport system includes Cleveland Hopkins International Airport, as well as Burke Lakefront Airport, which is a general aviation airport located downtown. The other responsibility, the maritime responsibility, includes developing and managing all of the city's waterfront properties along Lake Erie and Cuyahoga River. Cleveland Hopkins is about a 12 million passenger airport per year. Out of about 15,000 airports across the country, we're number 34 in the country, which makes us a large commercial airport. Burke Lakefront handles about 100,000 operations per year. These are the small jets, the general aviation jets. The Port Control has about a $300 million operating budget and about a $120 million capital budget. Now, something to understand about airports. Every airport in the country is part of the enterprise fund, which means our funds, our revenues are separate and distinct. There's a firewall that protects our revenues and our funds from tax dollars. So taxpayers do not pay a dime to support airports. Airports, by law, are supposed to be self-sufficient. We're supposed to maximize revenue. There are about 7,000 employees at Cleveland Hopkins and Burke Lakefront Airport, and the airport has about a $10 billion economic impact annually. Just to give you some insight as it pertains to, I would say, minority business development, just to use their term. There are two federal programs that drive airport procurement. One is the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, which applies to all construction, planning, I should say all expenditures that include airport funds. So if I spend $1 of airport revenue on a procurement, then it's subject to the federal DB program. And then there's that unique procurement opportunity at airports, which is our concessions program. Go to airports, you spend money on news and gift items, food, beverage items, or parking garages, you use our taxi service, our other ground transportation services. Those are all concessions. And those concession programs are all subject to a federal ACD program, or Airport Concessions DD program. Separate and distinct from any other mode throughout the country. We have a 17% federal DBE goal and a 30% federal ACD goal in all of our contracts. Cleveland also has a local program, or a couple local programs. One is the MBE/FBE program, Minority Business Enterprise, Female Business Enterprise program, and there's a 15% goal on that program. We also have a newly developed program, which we call the Cleveland Area Small Business Development Program. And this program is targeted at those small businesses, primarily minority-owned firms, that reside in Cleveland, that has its headquarter office, or its CEO resides in the city of Cleveland. Get the preference on their bids. If I can talk about opportunities a little bit, again, airports are somewhat unique, and I often try to draw attention to the concessions opportunities at airports. If you look at the construction piece and the planning piece and the professional services piece, typically you get a contract and complete that contract and you're done. And you have to start all over again and try to find new business. So there's an endless pursuit to develop business in a short period of time. The concessions program is unique in that if you get a concessions outlet in the airport, let's say a concessions outlet or a group of them might generate $10 million in sales per year. You have that concept from anywhere from 7 to 10 years. And so for 7 to 10 years, you are generating, or you are at least bringing in a portion of what is a $10 million income base per year. So the upside to the concessions program, I always think, is much greater than the net that you find with planning, engineering, construction, professional services. However, I still push the professional service side as well. We just going back to the concessions piece, we just entered a contract with BAA. BAA is one of the larger airport concessions development companies in the business. A $620 million program, which will generate about $62 million per year over the next 10 years. We have a 30% goal on both sides of that contract. And the two sides of that contract are one food and beverage to one program, and then the news and gift merchandise is another part of the project. We've already started with the news and gift side, the food and beverage side. We started in January, so you couldn't find a better time to, if you're interested in this kind of business opportunity, you couldn't find a better time to put your pitch in to get an outlet or some concept that Cleveland Hopkins. We also have a rather ambitious planning program. Cleveland Hopkins is a very old facility, and so we're spending a lot of money planning and designing new facilities. Spending about $7 million a year on planning and a little more than that on associated design. We're also on the cusp of launching what's called a master planning process. All airports, large commercial airports, must have a master plan, a 10 to 15-year master plan, in order to receive federal funding. So we're in the process of launching that. That is about a $3 million planning project alone. Berkeley Front Airport, which is a hidden gem downtown Cleveland. We're about to put an RFP out on the street in a few weeks to do what we call a mixed-use development around the airport. If you come to Cleveland about a year and a half now, we'll be surprised if you find me as a zone restaurant, for example, on the end of one of the Burke Airport properties. What this does for us is it is a revenue source that is not related to the airlines, what we call non-airline revenues, and it allows us to draw down revenue landing fees so that we can attract airlines to come in to the airport. This will be a significant boost. Those of you who are in the development business or are interested in pursuing a development opportunity, this is a significant opportunity that you should put on your radar. What are some of the challenges? The challenges with the industry are not unique. We are suffering from rising fuel costs. There's not an airline in the country or an airport in the country that is not reducing its air service. We just took a 13% reduction in our air service at Cleveland Harbor. And that's not the worst that you'll find if you talk to other airport directors. And so the industry is taking a huge hit in that sense, and we're hopeful that it doesn't get worse. About a year and a half ago, fuel costs was about $80 a barrel, in some cases $60 a barrel. It is now up to almost $150 a barrel, depending on which day we look at it. $136 a barrel just last week. Another challenge we have is just getting Congress to pass a reauthorization of the airport improvement program. There are significant improvements to our building finance projects and to develop business opportunities for companies like yours if we can have that passed. There are continuing challenges to the MBE programs and DBE programs across the country, which makes it very difficult in some cases, at least challenging for airports and airport directors and managers and other transportation modes to be aggressive in establishing goals that we're comfortable with that, but maybe a bit risky because the programs are so subject to challenge. And then the growing expansion of security measures